What is happening, people? Today I'm gonna show you how to make this game. Now I don't know what they call this game, but I'm gonna call it rings. Okay, I'm pretty sure you already familiar how this game works. Basically, the goal, the objective of the game is for you to lay out these purple rings here in this order, but in a different stick than the one it currently is. Okay, so basically in this game you are able to take a ring that's on top and then place it here, and then take this one, but you're not allowed to place a ring that is bigger on top. Okay, it has to be, you have to place a smaller one on top of a ring that is bigger. For example, if I take this ring here and try to place it here, it's not gonna work. So I need to place it here on an empty space and then place a smaller one on top of it. Okay, so basically the way I made this game, these things that I drawn here, they are in a two-dimensional array. Okay, a two-dimensional array that consists of 3 rows and 7 columns. Okay, so as you can see here, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these rings. So 6 will fit in each stick, and then I made an extra empty row on top so that when I drag this, okay, it's able to move here on top. Okay, I'm using numbers to represent these rings here. So the bigger the number, the larger this ring is, and the smaller the number, the smaller it is. So for example, this one here has the number 1, and then this one has 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6. Okay, now if the number is 0, then it means that we do not draw anything. Okay, for example, there is a dimension on my array that represents this part here. Okay, but you do not see anything because it is an array that has zeros only. So I only draw these pads if a number exceeds 0. Okay, so in my code I'm gonna call these things, these purple things, I'm gonna call them either hula hoops or hoops. Okay, it's the same thing because I'm too lazy to type hula hoops, so most of the time I'm gonna call them hoops in my game. Okay, and then this one I call it a stick, this brown thing over here, and then this yellow cross here I call it a controller. Okay, this is what I use to move the rings in different positions. Okay, now if the user has won, this rings text here will change to well done. Okay, now I'm done explaining it graphically here. Now it's time to see the code. Okay, here we have our ring class here, rings class. This, we simply just create our frame, and then we add our board here, and then pack means that our frame size is dependent on the size of this board here. This board here is a J panel. Okay, and now move on. Now I'm gonna start with the key adapter. Basically, a key adapter is just a key listener. It basically saves you from having to override some other methods. Okay, a key listener is basically a class that responds to keyboard presses. For example, if when a key is pressed, then this method here is called. Okay, but I first have to add it. I first have to add the key listener to my board here. Okay, so here, for example, I say if the key event get key code, this will give me this gives me a number that represents a key that was pressed. In this case, that number, if a person presses R, then that number is represented as key event.vkr. Okay, so if R is pressed, I simply just reset and then repaint here. Repaint means that you must update the graphics, because if you change a variable, it doesn't update graphically automatically. You have to call repaint here. Okay, so here, if the user has won, then I simply return, because I don't want the user to be able to excuse me. Okay, I don't want the user to be able to move to control any game element here if already he has won. He has to first reset, and then he can move the elements and start the game again. Okay, and then here I call repaint. I've explained what repaint is. I'm not gonna do it twice. Okay, and then here I simply just set the size, I set the background, and then I add the key listener. Okay, this code is very important, because if I don't add the key listener, then I won't be able to respond to keyboard presses. Okay, so if I add the key listener, then if my panel has focus and I press a key, then my key listener will be called. In this case, the key pressed method here will be called. Okay, and then I set focusable to true, and then here I request the keyboard focus to come to this panel. Okay, as soon as it loads. Okay, and then here I have the two-dimensional array, which represents these hula hoops here. Okay, for example, let me just reset this here. Okay, for example, there's 0 here, as you can see. Now this 0 represents this empty part here. Because it's a 0, nothing is drawn. So if there's a 1 here, then this is drawn, and then 2, a larger one is drawn, and so forth. Okay, and then I have the start x variable here. This basically represents the location at which I start drawing these elements here. So I'm starting here at 50. So this is where the edge of this hula hoop here, this is where I start drawing. Okay, and then here we have the controller column. This basically represents the location of this thing here, this yellow cross. We use it to move it. So I take this controller column variable and I multiply it with the maximum width here, and then I add the starting x location here, which gives me this location. So every time when I increase the controller column by 1, it moves to the next position of the stick. So if I say 1, it will move here, and then 1, it moves here again, because I multiply it by the maximum size of these hula hoops here. Okay, and then here I have the stick. I declare my image here. The stick image here represents this stick, and then the controller image represents this yellow cross here. Okay, excuse me. And then here I simply initialize all of them in a static block here. Okay, and then this is where I start drawing my purple hula hoops here. Okay, now what I do is I iterate on each and every I iterate on my two-dimensional array here, and then if I find any number that is not equal to 0, I start drawing. Okay, so this hula hoop is a class. Okay, it's a class that contains mostly static fields and methods. I use it basically to do anything that relates to the hula hoop itself. So for example, here I say int hoop, and then I say hoop at. Okay, this hoop at accesses the two-dimensional array that I told you about before. Okay, so if at that position the number is not equal to 0, I start drawing. Okay, let me quickly go to the hula hoop class here and show you real quick. It's not a lot, this class. Okay, I have the maximum width here, which represents the maximum width of the hula hoop, the largest size of the hula hoop, and then the height, and then the hoop count. This basically means the number of hula hoops, the maximum number of hula hoops. So it's 6. As you can see, it's also 6 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then there's the hoop column, which represents the number of columns where this hoop can be inserted. There's like 3, which is 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3 columns. And then I make an array of those images here. Basically, these images are named them according to their numbers. For example, if the 1 is the smallest hula hoop, so I gave it the number 1 here. Let me open it. You see, it's the smallest. And then the largest, I gave it the number 6. As you can see, it is the largest here. Okay, so the try init image here takes in a number. Okay, a number of a hula hoop. So if, for example, I provided 1, then it initializes the first element. So I need to subtract 1 here, because remember, in an array index, it starts at 0. Okay, and the number that will be provided here is a number that ranges from 1 to 6. Okay, so I need to subtract 1, and then I initialize here, okay, to access this image file here. And then the draw method here, I simply just draw the image. Okay, that was initialized. For it provides the graphics context, and then the X location, the Y location, and then the number. Okay, the number of that hula hoop. And then I call the try init image. Okay, this code is this part is really important, because if I didn't call try init image, my image will not be initialized, and a null pointer exception was going to be thrown. Okay, and then here I simply just draw that image, and then this code gets the width of the image that corresponds to this number. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my board here, and then I'm gonna explain the draw stick. This one is pretty simple. Simply just draws the stick. The stick is this brown thing here. Okay, and then set hoop at. Basically, it accesses the two-dimensional array, and then sets the number that's specified here. So if I want, for example, I want to set the the number 1 to an element that's at the 0 column, and the first column and the first row and the first column, I'm simply gonna say set hoop at and provide 0 0, and then the number I want to set like this, set hoop at, and say 0 0. This way I want it to be maybe 6, okay, the largest hoop element. Okay, I will do it like this, and then I have the clear hoop at. This one is pretty simple. It basically sets the element of an array that's at a specific position here to 0. When it's set to 0, remember that nothing will be drawn. Okay. And then the hoop at method simply just accesses a hoop that's at a specified row and column. Okay, and then get top hoop represents a hoop that's at the topmost, okay, within a specified row here. For example, get top hoop will return this hoop here, okay, if I was in this row here, this column, okay. And then okay, and then draw controller. This basically just draws this yellow thing here. I call it a controller. And then reset. Excuse me. And then reset here resets the game. So it sets the one variable to false. Okay, this one variable will tell us whether the user has won the game or not. Okay, so basically what I do here is, and I iterate on each and every set, okay, of our row, and I check if it's a first row. If it's the first row, then I clear what is on the top. Okay, remember that there's 6 hula hoops. There's 6 hula hoops here, and then but in my array I made space for an extra hoop, so there's like 7 spaces for this. So I want to set the first one to an empty one, and then set the rest to set the rest of these rows in numerical order. Okay, so this is what I'm doing here. You see, I'm setting it in numerical order by simply just increasing the hoop number here. And then this method, pull or drop hula hoop, this will be responsible for doing this. You see, I'm dragging, I'm pulling it, and then I'm dropping it, pulling it, dropping it. This is what it's responsible for. Okay, the first thing I do is I check. Okay, I check if the element that's on top is not 0. Okay, if it's not 0, then it means that there's an element. Okay, if it's not 0, it means that there's already an element on top, so I need to drop it. But if it's 0, it means that I need to pull this element here and then remove it here and then put it here on top. Okay, this is basically what I do here in this code. Okay, what I'm doing is, because the element on top here, there's an element on top, okay, I need to drop it, okay, instead of pulling it. So this is what I do here. what I do is I keep on moving downwards until I find an element that's not 0. If I find it, then I store its location, okay, and then after storing its location, I set its position to 0, and then on the very top I set the new value to the number that was here. Okay, this is basically what I do here. And then check controller position. This code basically checks if I'm not moving, if my controller is not moving out of bounds. For example, I want to move here, but I want my movement to end here. I don't want it to move any further. So this is what it controls. It ensures that because the value doesn't decrease, than it's needed. If, for example, I try to move, for example, this position, it's at the row that's at 0. So if I try to move any further, it's going to decrease to -1. So -1 is an invalid number. So if it moves to -1, then it makes it 0. Okay, and then the similar concept applies if I try to move any further here. Okay, this position is 0, 1, 2. So if I try to move and make it 3, automatically this method will change it to 2. Okay, now it returns false if I try to move and the move was not valid at the time. Okay, and then here we have the move controller method. This is the method that controls this yellow cross here. Okay, so as an argument, a value that's either left or right is provided. So if left is provided, I decrease the controller column. If right is provided, then I increase the controller column. And then after doing that, I need to call check controller position. Okay, if check controller position returns true, then it means that a movement was successful. So what I need to do now is, for example, if I want to move to the left here, move this thing to the left, basically what I do is I set this position it's at to 0 to make it disappear, and then as it moves here, I set this position to the number that corresponds to this number. In this case, it's gonna be 1 because this is the smallest element here. Okay, okay, and then here, okay, and then now I move to the draw title. This is gonna draw this title here, rings. So if the user has actually won this game, this rings will change to well done. So this is what this code does here. So I set the font, I set the color, and then the XY location, and then I call the drawSting method. Okay, and then the check winner method here. This will set the value, will change the won value depending if the player has won or lost or hasn't won the game. Okay, so initially it's gonna be false. Okay, so basically what I do here is I iterate, okay, starting from the 7th position. Okay, remember that there's like 7 hula hoops here. I mean there's 6 hula hoops, and then I made 1 extra space, okay, in my array. So I iterate here starting from the 7th element here, and then because now our array indices, okay, start from 0 to start from 0, and if there's like 7 elements here, it means I must subtract by 1. Okay, so that it is 0 to 6. Okay, because here my idea is that I'm iterating starting from 7 to 1. Okay, so now I need to get the number. Okay, I need to get the number that's at this location here. So I'm starting at the bottom here for each and every column, like 1, 2, 3 here. I'm starting at the bottom. Okay, and then I'm decreasing my value accordingly. So if the 7 here matches the current position, okay, of this J element here, like I said, J minus 1 is equal to hoop. If it matches it, then I simply just increase the match count. And if the match count is equal to the number of hula hoops, okay, it means that they are all laid down from small to largest, or from largest to small if you are starting from the bottom. If that happens, then I change the variable 1, I set it to true, and then I break everything here, okay, to stop the entire loop, not just the loop that's in the middle. So so that's what check winner does. And then here, draw game, I simply call all these graphical elements here. And then the paint component method, this is a method that I need to override here in order to draw my graphics. Okay, so here I just simply call super.paint component, and then I just draw the game. Okay, thank you very much, people, for watching. If you have any questions, please send those questions in the descriptions. Please like or subscribe. Thank you very much.